For those of you who don't know who I am Thomas from Believe in the Run. Thank you. Thank you there. That's Lo, by the way, up front. I'm going to introduce my team while we're here. Lo Johnson over here. We got two Megans. You're going to get them confused because they look like twins, but Megan and Megan. And then Carl's in the back. I forgot where Carl was, but he's on camera in the back. Thanks to my team for being out here, but even bigger thanks to New Balance for bringing us all together. This is going to be an exciting weekend. And this is the kickoff, so I'm really excited. I'm very excited, like a kid who's gotten into a bag of candy. So before we get going, I'm going to introduce you to the people that are going to be on the panel here. And trust me, this is the most nervous I'm going to be because I don't want to mess up anybody's name. We don't normally do this live. I get to have an editor, and they fix stuff that I mess up, like if I had just cursed there, which I didn't. I want credit for that. Tyler Swartz is coming up first. Come on up. Tyler is with Endorphins Running. They are one of the fastest growing running communities across the country, but you're pretty big in New York, right?
We're trying to be. Oh, hello.
There you go.
We got it. We did a little mic check before. Yeah. It's working. I'm happy it is.
Yeah. Are you as excited?
Am I supposed to be standing, sitting? What am I supposed to be doing right now?
I like the sitting. This is good. I'll come back here.
Thanks.
Little shoulder rub. It's very patronizing, but we'll get there. Next up is Andrea Haus, or Dre Haus. Yeah, here we go. She's from Mill City Running. What you're going to start to see is a thread that ties us all together, besides running, is Tyler's building community through run clubs. Dre's in charge of building community through Mill City Running. Mill City Running is across the country famous for being one of the top retailers in the country, wouldn't you say?
I would like to say that.
All right, we're going to go with it. And finally, the New York City TCS Marathon Race Director, Ted Metellus. All right, that's not fair. I want that same kind of claps for these guys, too. That wasn't really not. I know I gave him a little more, like, the little more showmanship there. And he's wearing a Yankees hat. I'm sorry about that for those of you who like the Orioles, like myself. But I'm sure there's plenty of Yankee fans here.
Red Sox, anyone?
Ooh, Red
Boston,
Sox.
There we go. I see some hands.
Let's not start any fights. We're going to get started here. I'm going to sit down now, slowly. All right. Again, this is live. So let's start it off. And the main thing that we're going to talk about tonight is building community. And I'm going to throw it to Ted first. Because, Ted, you've been doing this for over 27 years. And race directing and races have changed, and how people are interacting with you in the community you've probably seen a lot of different trends. And right now we're seeing a boom. What do you think has changed that is creating so many new runners and so many people who want to run majors?
All right, well, hey everybody. Thanks for the love there, I appreciate it. I think all of that happened because they all won an entry into the marathon, so you're not getting one. All right, so I think the one word to use is community. I think that gets used a lot, and it's an interesting balance between community and culture and how they balance out one another. There is a running community, but there is a culture within running, and a lot of it ties back to what's gone on in this world in the last 5 to 6 years. And between COVID and the social and racial awakening of America and the world, people were longing for an engagement. They were looking for someone. They were looking for someone like them. And I think that lined up well with running because we couldn't go to gyms. We couldn't be indoors. So what could we do? Well, let's go outside. I will meet you outside and let's go out and move. We'll go for a walk, or let's get our kids out there and run or something. And then that started to spread. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, I got my neighbor over here or my friend down the street, and they want to come and join us too, and it's grown and grown and grown. So that's a little bit more of the newer case in like run clubs and run crews, but that has been in the space for quite some time. Again, is lining it up with a run culture, a run community, getting people engaged, getting people active, because while everyone is super duper different, that lines up like the 55,000 plus people that run our races here in New York. We're gonna have 27,000 people running on Saturday as part of the RBC Brooklyn Half Marathon. They're all different people, but they're all doing the same thing, and that's all moving in one direction as a group.
All right, that's a good place to start, because we're going to move over to Drea here, and we're going to talk about Mill City. You've been bringing people together for run groups since the inception of Mill City, and you're up in a place that I would think would be inhospitable to running. It's cold, it's freezing, and somehow you get huge groups showing up to your store and participating in a group. What do you think is the reason behind that? Why do people come and congregate with you and take on running?
Yeah, it is unpleasant for about half the year in the Twin Cities. I think we see that glue that kind of brings us together a little bit more in the colder months, the people that are still coming out, because it's a lot more fun to be uncomfortable at the same time with other people. But I think what really sticks our group together, to your point, is the culture that we've started. And I think from day one, it was always about kind of being silly and supporting each other. And so we try to stay true to those tenets at every event we do, every group run we do.
A follow-up question to that. So what type of runners are coming out to Mill City? Like, are we talking people that are just starting to run, or are we getting people that are like pro level?
Both. Yep, both. We have true beginners. We have a beginners running group that we coach people up to run their first 5K. A lot of them go on to join our race team, which is an all-abilities race team. And then we also have some professional runners as well. We had 4 teammates racing down at the Olympic trials in January for the marathon, or February. So it's really both ends of the spectrum. And to be honest, most of our 1,000-person race team is in the middle of those two ends. But yeah, it's fun to celebrate both sides.
All right, Tyler, you're the new kid on the block.
I guess so.
You're building something here in New York and across the country, right? Can you describe a little bit? Because I think people are really familiar with the communities that come to races, the communities that go to like traditional running store groups. You're kind of doing something different. Can you kind of explain what Endorphins Running is and how you're bringing people together?
Totally. Hey everyone, I'm Tyler, and we started Endorphins about 18 months ago, and now we're in 10 cities across the country, which is wild. And I think it speaks to your point, Ted, of people after COVID were searching for social connection. And I think we have performance groups, and then we also have groups now that are like mainly social first. And that's what Endorphins really is, and we're bringing people together. I mean, we live in a world today where people are working from home, stuck on their phone, they're stuck on their feeds. Everyone's looking for social connection. I think running is a place where people can come together in a non-drinking format and make friends. And I think that's really at our core. And we say this at every single one of our experiences all across the country. Our mission. We're a mission-based organization. We say the mission is spread positivity and happiness through movement and exercise. We say that everywhere. So that's what we do. And I think it's no different than your group or any other run crews. It's just very mission-focused.
Our group drinks.
We do happy hour runs and whatnot, but I think it's just a really special thing right now. And I think there's also been a huge trend in people not like drinking is.
There definitely is. I'm doing that for comic effect, but they do drink. I find it the same. Is when I got into running, I wasn't typical. I didn't go high school. I didn't do track and field. I didn't even run in college. Probably what most people would call a loser. But at a certain point, I started getting overweight and wasn't feeling good about myself. And I found running. I went to a 5K, and I was like, look at all these beautiful people that are excited and they're feeling good, and I'm not part of this. I want to be part of it. So that's how I started running. And then eventually we started a running group, and it was based around kind of being outsiders. And it was interesting. We found other people that felt the way we did about running who felt a little bit different. And what I'm seeing now, which is kind of exciting, is the inclusion of people that you wouldn't think of as runners, the people who didn't do it in high school, didn't do it here, and all of a sudden are like, hey, I want a group of friends or people that are like me. And so you saw smaller groups splintering off and kind of solo, and you're watching that grow. And I'm going to throw this one to you, Ted, because every group comes to New York Roadrunners. Like, everybody wants to run the New York City Marathon. When you look at that kind of blob of these individual groups, I like to think of ourselves as like motorcycle gangs. You know, we had tats, we were, you know, drinking after it and doing all that stuff, but we were kind of like the outsiders to running. I didn't even know track. Like, the first time I did a track workout, they're like, do a 400 and come back, take a 2-minute break and do another. I was like, 400 what? So tell me what that's like to watch that kind of culture like come into the New York Roadrunners like psyche.
Well, it's great to say that because I'm on the other end of that spectrum and I fully relate to you. I'm a mid to backpack runner. I've run 2 marathons around New York twice. I love the half marathon distance because I can get outside right now and run a half. And usually when people ask me what my time is, I promptly say daytime. I'm not here for a fast time, I'm here for a good time, as my boy Dan Cruz would say. So to the point, like, it's fascinating, not just at New York Roadrunners, and I've had the pleasure of being with this organization for almost 2 decades at various capacities, but also running in the running community across the world, and watching your front pack, mid pack, and backpack runners and who they identify as and take pride in that. So the term Jolly Jogger, that's a game changer in the industry because those are the folks that aren't going for your high performance shoe. They just want something that's going to make sure their feet don't hurt and they can get out there and do a mile, 2 miles, 5K or what have you. What we have the responsibility of is, one, creating an environment that welcomes folks of all abilities and all skills to come out and partake in it. That's the first thing. The second thing, to your point about doing 400s and what, I ran track in high school. I was a terrible track runner. I was even worse cross-country runner. I mean, I'd probably still be in Van Cortlandt Park right now, still running, trying to finish. But demystification of the sport and identifying to folks that, like, you know, for many, 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 many years, Roadrunners had to take away the stigma of like, oh no, I don't run. I don't wear short shorts and a tank top and run 5-minute miles. And then all of a sudden you start seeing folks that show up that look just like them, that said, I just ran my first race. I just ran my first half marathon. That starts taking away that demystification component. And that's something that we support and welcome, whether it is celebrating your final finisher at the marathon, which is something that we do, or just really showing love to those that are out there that are learning and engaging with the sport. And I think it balances well back to either the retail component, which is like, hey, let's walk you through this and show you what needs to get fitted as far as your proper apparel, or run clubs and crews that are like, hey, here are your different pace groups that are gonna go out. You know, you have your, 5 to 8 minutes, you have your 8 to X minutes, and so on and so on. And they're like, well, can I walk? I'm like, yeah. Are you moving? Yes, you can walk. Come on out there and do it. And once people start to see that, that's when they feel welcome to go from running at a run club with bad shoes to going to the apparel store and saying, hey, I've never done this before, to coming and running their very first race and getting hooked on it. And then that's your cycle that happens. But that demystification is key. That education is key. That engagement is key. And really important to make sure that people see themselves out there doing it. Because if we were a bunch of itty bitties up here talking to a group of folks that were running their first race, they'd be like, I can't relate to these cats. But when you hear somebody that's like, yeah, like my fastest half marathon is 2:20, after they stop laughing, they're like, oh man, that's really impressive. But then somebody out there is like, that's amazing. Like, I want to run a 2:20 one day and go for it that way. So that demystification and welcoming piece is what's going to open up doors and take down walls.
I mean, you brought up a dirty word, and it's kind of offensive. But the P word,
what?
Pace. And this is a difficult one because as someone who's tried to include everybody in a run crew with pace, it's hard. And we've told people everyone's welcome, but you'll get dropped. And so that's a question I have for Endorphins and Mill City here. How do you accommodate and make everybody feel safe and feel good about running? How do you be welcoming to everybody? Because that's a really tough thing to do, because you need people that are going to shepherd those people into the sport.
Sure. I mean, outside of running, just when you bring people together for dinner, knitting club, anything, I think it's really important that you set the intention of why you're there and make it. What's so funny? You're not a knitter?
No, he was doing the knitting motion there. So
I'm practicing my mime work.
there you go.
think
I'm going to Paris.
It's super important to be explicit why you're there and set the purpose. And I think like what we do is we always say, if you see someone that you don't recognize, if you've been here before, make sure to say hello. And then everyone knows that it's a welcoming space. We have 10 pace groups at our New York City runs on Saturday mornings, and like there's still people that we could be better at including, and it's something that we're working on. But I think setting the intention, whatever you're doing, whether it's a meeting at work or whether it's a group run, I think that's like probably the best way you can make an inclusive space for people.
Yeah, we do some similar things, but at our shops, pace is not a dirty word. Pace is a way for us to introduce people to each other. There's no judgment behind it. We do have people in many different pace groups. I think we're up 9 or 10 usually. So we're very open about it, and the way we phrase it is just, hey, what pace do you want to run today? No judgment, I'm just going to make you talk to someone. And then they automatically can meet a friend. We also celebrate new runners before every run, and we go over the routes and we make all the new runners raise their hands. Everybody applauds them, which is so awesome if you're a first-time runner. And then we say, hey, you got to be brave and talk to someone, and they'll make sure you get back to the store today and bring them into the fold.
I do think it's the toughest thing when you come in. Like, I remember starting run, and I have to sometimes think back to it. You show up, the gear, you don't know the gear. Like I said, you don't know what a 400 is. You don't, like, it's a very awkward feeling. So the fact that you can make someone feel comfortable is really impressive. When I do say that pace, I find that no matter where a runner comes in, I've talked to the fastest runners, like Andrew out here came in 10th place at Boston as far as the U.S. runners. Where are you, Andrew? There we go. I just wanted to say he came in 10th place as the first American at Boston Marathon. But I'm sure when he's talking to somebody who's faster than him, he's like, yeah, I can only run this. And we all do that. We all deflate what we're doing. And it is, you come into the sport and you don't have any expectation. And then you start to put that number on it and you see and you start to understand, oh, a sub 4 is a good start, or a sub 3 is a legit marathon, or this. And you start putting that in your head, and it's really hard to ignore those numbers when you get into running. Do you find that when you're running with a group, there's competitiveness in the group, or like within the little pace groups, are they racing each other?
I think there's always going to be a little bit about that, especially in such a comparative sport like running. I think the more you can emphasize the fun aspect or like the social aspect of the runs, the less of that you might see. Like if you make sure to say, like, you guys should talk to each other and learn each other's names and not just try to kick each other down over the bridge on the way back to the store. I don't know. There's always a little bit, but
I think we're humans. Like, I think everyone's competitive with each other by nature, but I think running seems like it's an individual sport. And then when you come to a group and then you can spend miles with other people, you realize it's a team. And I think that kind of defuncts any competitiveness between each other.
One of the things I think is really interesting, yes, there's always going to be some level of competitive nature that's there until that which you love and value and lean on the most is taken away from you. So for those of us that have been injured, that have been like legit, like hardcore athletes, or there's this other thing that happened called age. You will slow down majorly as you get older, some of us. So I think that's the humbling moment where it kind of changes the equation. Two quick things, though, that's really interesting to the P word. One, I welcome, faster runners, let's call you that, I'm not that, to start a race at the back and see what that experience is. That is a game changer on a scale that I can't even begin to explain. I am not a fast runner, but the 1 or 2 races of hours that I get to run are just 5Ks because it's enough time for me to start the race, catch the lead finisher that gets done in like 17 minutes, and get to the start line within the 20-minute window before we close it down and start. And I'm always like the last person to start the race. And you're running and you see what what we do at New York Roadrunners, but what this space is all about in real life. When you see those folks that are back there giving as much effort as the folks that just finished in 17 minutes, that's when you're like, all right, this is what it's all about. And then I slow down enough and just say to each person I run by, you're doing a great job. You're looking great. Good job. And most of those cats don't know who I am, but then they hear the voice and be like, didn't you start this thing? And now you're out here running? And like, I welcome you to have that experience at least once in your lifetime. I know for some of you, it'll mess up your split times and change your corral placements and all that jazz. But one day, just start in the back and see what it's all about. And your job is to thank every person and tell them they're looking great and doing a really good job. It will change you when you get there. And the last thing I'll say super fast, with the final finisher that we do at New York Roadrunners. So we do this thing at the TCS New York City Marathon called the Final Finisher Celebration. We welcome all the runners that come in. And what we've done in the past is had some of the elite athletes come back to the finish line to welcome in some of those runners. And to not get in any way, shape, or form emotional, two things. One is some of the fastest athletes in the world started the same race that these folks started. In many cases, they started before the elite athletes because we have a program for our athletes with disabilities and some of the other athletes to start earlier because they know they're going to take a longer day. So they start, then the elites start. They run 26.2 miles. They finish. They do, USADA, blood, drug testing, media, head back to the hotel, clean up, change, have dinner, come back to the finish line to see the athletes that started before them. And they're just like moved to tears. And they said, what I just did for 2 hours and something minutes is not hard. What this person just did for 8 hours, 9 hours is hard. We got this one gentleman, Dave Frazier, who is an athlete with disability. Dave is in a wheelchair. He starts the race before everybody, pushing himself backwards. Oh, geez. I've started the race, cannon go off, in the lead vehicle, and I shout out to Dave. Good job, Dave, you're looking great. 8, 10 hours later, Dave is pushing himself to the finish line. And they're there to give him his medal. That's what we do. That's the sport.
That's pretty sick, but you also gave me, all right, give you a sec. You gave me a new definition for OPP. So you might have to be a little older to understand that.
I know other people's problems or other people's property, but what are you talking about? Other people's pace?
Yeah, there we go. I think if you can ignore that and just mind your own, you're going to be all right.
That's it.
All right. So, man, you gave us a lot to unwind there. I'm still thinking about someone pushing themselves backwards over the thing that I ran.
We have 2 athletes that do that, and every single year they're out there competing. And like that's what keeps us moving.
All right, so let's ask Dre, what's something that you've seen through your community that has inspired you or makes you appreciate your own place in the sport?
Man, that's a tough question. I think probably recent involvement with our beginners group has been really moving to me. We also support an organization that puts on the race that all of our beginners do at the end of the day. And there's so many stories that come together in that one moment. And I love volunteering at the finish line. I love cheering. Speckling is what we call it, spectating and heckling. I think, to your point, you just see the full swath of people that are participating in chasing that same goal. And I'm starting to wonder a little bit if I like speckling more than racing these days, because you get to see so many different things.
So Tyler, you haven't been doing this forever, so your experiencing is pretty fresh. And getting all these people together, like what's been humbling to you about the process?
Before being an organizer, I was a participant. And I would look up at some of the coaches that were mentoring me as a recent graduate out of college, and I had no idea what I was doing. I remember I was going to workouts in Central Park, and I had no idea what I was doing, but I would say, man, like this reminds me of playing high school football. I'm in the locker room with friends. Like this it gives me that same feeling. And now being able to offer that environment to other people that lost their community is what inspires me every day. Like at Monday mornings across the country, we'll host 10 events. We're hosting 27 group runs this week, which is wild. And I look back and I just see people exchanging phone numbers with each other, and knowing that those relationships could last a decade. I know that when I first started running and I was training at those group runs in Central Park, I'm still connected with those individuals 7-8 years later. I'm still connected with my high school football teammates, and I know that we're creating those relationships that are going to last generations, and being at the center apex of that is like what inspires me to do what I do every single day. So it's definitely fresh, but I love it, and I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it.
That's awesome. We have a group called the Faster Bastards. I said I wouldn't curse. That's a light one. You get to let me off the hook on that one. But since we started it, we've had people get married who met through the run group. We've had people have babies. They actually named their kid Miles, which, come on.
Just drag them.
Yeah, no. I was like, what's your daughter's name going to be? You know, Fartlick? I don't know. But yeah, so we've seen all these, like the longer you're in it, I think the more you watch how it's not about running, it's more, it becomes like not a metaphor for life because it is life, but you see life happening in front of you. And our group is like 12 years old, so I've seen a lot happen. But through running community, if I think about some of the things, like you got me thinking with, what was the guy's name who did the wheelchair?
Dave Frazier.
Dave Frazier. You got me thinking about that, but when Meg and I started Big Run Media and we were working on stuff, we were doing promotions for a race called the Donna Foundation. It has a race in Florida called the Donna. There you go, the Donna. You got to use the mic.
The Donna.
Yeah, the Donna. And it's for breast cancer survivors, and it's also for raising money for the care of people who are diagnosed with breast cancer because it's financially a drag. And then also for the research with the Mayo Clinic. And so every year they invite survivors to come run. And they've created their own community down there. So it's women who have been through cancer, who have survived, and are helping other people go through it. And they're also doing it through running. So they start run groups. They actually are out there running the course. And it's unfortunately or fortunately, because she's a survivor, but Meg's mom was one of the women that got diagnosed with breast cancer and happened to win her division for breast cancer survivors, so I'll just throw that out there. But it's incredible. You know, we take, if we do distill it down just to pace, we're missing so much out of the sport. And you know, community is becoming a buzzword, or it doesn't mean as much as it does. But you can see from the four of us up here, and I'm sure each one of you, if we brought you up here, you would have something to say about running, that how it's not about you. It's about the people that you run with. Like, how fun would a race be if you were the only person running it? Kind of suck. But
Can confirm that it's not fun.
You've done this?
During COVID time trials.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody is bored chasing PRs. It was horrible. Yeah,
had to do
but
it.
to what you're saying, what we talk about a lot with our community members is running is not the best part of running. And I think we can all probably identify with that.
It's the being able to eat more food. Yeah. Anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask before we wrap up? There's no brave souls. There's not here one person.
I really like questions. Ask questions.
Yeah. Is anybody like, oh, wait, we got one. Come on up.
Come on up.
Okay, first, can we get a round of applause for the jumpsuit? Because this thing is fire.
You guys are all such powerful leaders within the community, just going out every day. What are some of the challenges that you face in your roles?
How much time do we have?
I want to know your challenges.
I got challenges for days, man.
Like people asking for bibs?
Yeah, exactly. Let's start with that. Dear Ted, you don't know me, but I mean, Listen, where's Teresa? Teresa, who's in the back here, the brains of the operation. She and I are you kidding me? I've had complete strangers like, how'd you get my phone number? But I joke about it. But here's the thing: one of the biggest challenges is there's this tremendous boom in running. Every single event that we're producing is sold out, and we want to be able to try to accommodate as many people as possible. On a global scale, But I think the biggest thing that we have right now that we're really looking closely at Roadrunners is okay, how do we get communities, the underserved communities, really out there and moving? And there is something beautiful to see people that look, for those of you who can't see me, I'm African American, 6'2", 225 on a good day. Parents are from Haiti. I'm first generation, and you guys all know what's going on in Haiti right now. And when you are in front of young people that look like you and hear what you do professionally and what you do physically, they're like, I can't believe that. You've run how far? You've done what? So the biggest challenge is how do we create these types of opportunities on the event production side for more people. What is beautiful is to see so many clubs and crews that are out there that are really helping these folks get out there and run these events and whatnot. It's beautiful. I mean, to see people get their 6th star and their emotion when they're crossing that finish line is next level. So biggest challenge is trying to offer more to more people.
All right, Lowe's got a question, but before we go there, I'm going to call out your socks. If you can see Ted's socks, he's wearing Pioneers socks there. Can you tell us a little bit what Pioneers is?
So super fast, I don't want to butcher it for Sid and the crew, but Pioneers is a Black-owned athletic apparel company. It's one of the few that are out there, and they're really getting out there as far as making gear for folks. It's somewhat like the old line FUBU, for us, by us. And, just trying to do my part in supporting them like I try to support everyone else. But Pioneers is out there doing their part in the BIPOC community as far as it relates to running and running apparel.
Sid's awesome. Sid's awesome if you don't know Sid.
Awesome. Lo, who looks like he would be Ted's bodyguard or body double in a stunt movie. Look at this. They didn't even coordinate. There it is.
Test. So for the record, Ted is my twin, just so you guys know. Let's give a round of applause for me and Ted real quick. But no, a very serious question for just specifically for you two guys. I started my own run organization about 4 years ago, Runners Run. What advice would you give guys who are, or women who are out there who are trying to start their own running organization?
First off, let's just say he holds the mic correct. Did you see that grip? That was awesome.
When I move, you move.
All right.
I can start.
Tyler, yeah, why not?
I've already kind of alluded to this. I think understanding your why and your purpose is really important. I think people might get into community development for the wrong reasons, and I think just making sure you understand why you're creating that space. Is it for connection? Is it for people of different backgrounds? Is it people that like to read? It doesn't matter, but understanding your why is the most important thing, and then what are you going to do to serve that group? I think that it's often underestimated the amount of effort and attention that goes to cultivating community and making sure that you understand what you're about to give to others, and it's a selfless role, making sure that you're ready to give to the community, because I think a lot of the time people are trying to pop up run clubs left and right, but don't do it for the right reasons, and they're not doing it for belonging and connection, and just know that you're about to be a servant for many, and it's a selfless role. So just making sure you understand what you're getting into before you do it.
I don't know. I didn't start our run crew. I kind of took it over, so I don't know if my answer will be quite as meaningful. But I think making sure you know your audience and know who you're speaking to as well, and who you want to speak to. Where do you want to take that group? So similar to knowing your why, knowing where you're going as well.
I mean, it's weird. Lowe's from Baltimore. Fast Ambassadors are from Baltimore. It's a little weird how we started because we didn't know our why. All we knew was that it actually started with a small group. And we just hey, here's where we're going to run. We started using social media to be like, hey, this is us, we're running. And people started just identifying themselves and wanting to be a part of it. I think it was also a different time. I mean, you're talking, like, I don't even know if we call ourselves a run crew or club at the time. It was just like friends, and it just started growing, and we met new people through that, and it just organically grew. I think the toughest challenge now is the communication. I can't be at everything. I can't do everything. I have a job, and I love those guys. And the things that I do to keep the club going is I make sure that communication, there's a Slack group, there's, emails that are going out. When brands come to us and they're like, hey, we've got bibs for an event, I make sure that we're pushing that out to the team and keep them engaged with each other. But it's at that point where it's really organic, and they love each other, and they're creating cliques and friendships, and they're going out and doing social things. They'll come to me and be like, hey, can we do this? And I'll be like, yeah, we can do that, whatever. And the best part about it is, for us, is like Low heads up Runners Run. There's other groups in Baltimore, and we're starting to, I think the natural thing to do is to try to, again, compete, like numbers or whatever it's going to be. But what we started doing is saying, hey, no, it's more fun if we run together. And like I said earlier, we have a tough time with pacing. The Faster Bastards, the name kind of has brought out people that, like, it's tough for us to have a really, like, moderate paced group. They all are gunning. And by being able to connect with the other groups that may be a little more, different, we're able to get the whole city together. And so one of my favorite things is, just by having the groups and being able to be open to each other, we're able to take all of Baltimore, and we come together for, if we do a Believe in the Run event, or we do a tribe event, or Charm City Run wants to do an event, we'll all come out. We know each other. We'll be like, yeah, maybe I'm not going to run that Saturday run where you're running, 6-minute flats, but I'll come out for your Monday night run where everything's at a 12-minute pace. And it's the same people that are running 6 who slow down to run 12 with the people, because they just want to hang out, have fun, and it becomes really social. So while it's a challenge to stay on top of the group, and I think it's different, like, I think each one of us would have a different challenge. For mine, the challenge is, like, I feel bad when I can't be as engaged with the group, but I feel really proud that the group now, it's their group. Like, they own the Faster Bashes. They own, Believe Run Club. They go out and get drinks. Sorry about that. But yeah, the social life continues. I'm rambling now, but yeah.
I have a question for you three. I'd be curious about, because when we chatted prior to, it was about the evolution of the sport and the activity of running, to see where it was to where it is right now, to your point now. What trends do you see in the space, and or what are you hoping to see in the space as a store owner, from the merchandising and branding part of things, as a run club, and even from a brand engagement part, like we were chopping it up for a little bit about just the volume of folks that are out there, Tommy Runs and Michael Kafuzzi and Matt Chow, like the list goes on and on and on of all these folks that are out there, like are runner influencers, if you may say. But like, I'd be curious to see, like, what trends do you see, or what do you hope to see in the next 5 to 10 plus years? So.
Yeah, some of the things we've seen changing the last few years, we do offer a wide swath of paces at all of our runs, and we treat every customer the same when they come into our store. Our ethos is kind of just to meet people where they're at, and I think what we're seeing as more runners come out post-pandemic, and as more people call themselves runners and self-identify, or maybe not yet, more people are interested in tech. So even if maybe they wouldn't be in the top 10% of the race. Yeah, look at this guy. Maybe they're not in the top.
I'm the bionic man over here with every single thing. How slow are you going?
Yeah, they still want to know what's hot in innovation. Is it going to make me faster? Do I belong in this type of gear even if I'm running a 13-minute mile pace? So trying to emphasize the education, I think, has been important for us, and just making sure we're offering that to everybody, whether they call themselves a runner yet or not.
I think to piggyback off of that, which is really interesting, is now we have this technology that tells you what your resting heart rate is, and data about yourself that you probably have no idea what it means. But
Half
I think
the time you don't want to know.
But the point is, I think now that it's surface level and it's becoming normalized for us to have this information where it might have not been common 10 years ago. And I think that's going to lead to just a general trend in wellness. Like speaking back to drinking, like the first time I put on a Whoop was the last time I drank. Like I knew that that was really bad for my sleep and my recovery, and I wasn't benefiting from that. So I think that technology is going to make wellness a much larger trend in the next decade. I think one other thing, even to your point, Lo, is I think now we have so many people entering the space. Something that I'm even conscious of right now is like making sure that the people that are here before I are celebrated. And I think that's what Sid's doing incredibly well. I think you have decades of run crews. I think it's really important for the people that enter the space to understand who was there before them. And I think that's something that's often overlooked and something that I'm extremely conscious of.
Well, I'm going to throw this back to you, Ted. I'm going to say 10, 15 years ago, what was the profile of a runner?
It was a little bit of a mixed bag, and I think I mentioned it earlier. You still had your super fast folks that were out there hammering, and then you had this slow bubbling mid-pack, backpack group that were slowly getting out there, that were more social runners. Like I worked for the Rock and Roll Marathon Series for many, many years, and it was huge. It was 25 markets all over the world. And it celebrated the run. It was a party. It was a good time, you know. So that was simmering there, but it kind of capped. And I think post-COVID, it's blown up. And now more people are out there moving and grooving of various abilities and speeds. So that's the biggest thing that I saw from many years ago to now. And the other last thing that I would say, though, is just information. With social media, good or bad, tech obviously, but community is now more available and engaged now than it ever was before 15 plus years ago. Like, I don't know how much Strava was popping 15 years ago. Those
Daily
types of
Mile. It was Daily Mile back
There you
then.
go. Exactly. Or like whatever, the Nike app. Sorry, I used the N-word. I could say that. But like that, like there were things there that were so pieced and parsed, and now there's just more of it and more availability of it.
But what you really hit on before that I was trying to get you to tease out, you mentioned Matt Choi, Kafuzi, Tommy Runs. There's a whole host of people now that are visible that we did not see 15 years ago. If you flip through a Runner's World magazine or something, there was like a very curated look and feel for running.
100%.
Now people have taken it and they said, all right, this is how I want it to look. This is the culture of running. And I even saw someone post today that running culture is the new, I think they were saying urban culture is the new style. Like fashion is coming from running, which is pretty exciting. If you look at certain brands, they're really elevating that. But people are taking it and turning running into something that they can identify with. And I look at it back from like skateboarding or even basketball culture in the 90s. Now it's running, and people are bringing this style and a feel that's individual to running, and they're seeing other people out there, and social media really does a great job.
Big time.
Of showing you, hey, I'm into this. Running is something I'm into, but I'm also into photography, or I'm into music, or I'm into this, and there's a place for me in running, and I can dress a way that expresses that. And I'm seeing right now, as far as a trend, it's actually kind of beautiful that you're seeing all these different ways to interpret or to be expressive or creative in running that isn't just a 3-inch short and a singlet.
100%. I think you picked up what I dropped and ran with it, with the link into social media and re-engage in that community and the diversity of the people that are out there, and how each of the folks that we mentioned and dozens of more that are out there are doing so by, as we started at the top, this demystification of running, what it's about, educating people, sharing that, what the experience is. Like, you can literally travel the world in running by following you guys that do an amazing job on the social platform. Shout out to Believe in a Run.
I'll
Give
take
it up. And one quick thing too that you've all said, but Matt, you like, Thomas, you hit it mainly on the head was the crews, the influencers, the communities coming together. And more of that is going to definitely take our sport and our community to the next level, because it isn't like these boxed off groups that don't intersect and connect, but now they all are connecting, and they're doing things at parties, and they're doing things at meetups, and they're doing things at get-togethers that are really about like crew love and engagement. And it's happening at big races and small races all over, because people are like, oh, you're going to Baltimore to run the Baltimore Half Marathon? Great, I'm going down there too. Let's have a meetup, or you're going to do the, rock and roll DC race, again, a race in your community. Great, let's create a meetup. This is where our cheer zone is going to be. Come on out to the cheer zone. Let's celebrate and have a good time. And then it's all these groups that are coming together. And I think that that's a huge part of where we're going in the future.
That's awesome. I'm going to ask a final question, and this one's probably more for you two. So I'll let you each get a shot at it. I'm curious because I see it in our run group, and I kind of touched on it there, like fashion and style. Do you see like almost like the beginning of a style trend, and then it just kind of like run through your crew?
Pit vipers. Anyone know those shades? They're like big shades, and when one person gets them, everyone gets them. They're like $30, $40 shades.
I think they're more than that. I think they're like $70.
Wow, they're $70 now.
We had our first pair a couple weeks ago, and they ended up in the Lost and Found, and then this week I saw 3 people with that. So it's happening.
All right, get on it early, people.
Big shades.
Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the group before we wrap up?
Thank you for having us. This was awesome. Thank you,
Thank
New Balance,
New
for
Balance.
hosting us.
Yeah.
This is amazing. Is anyone here racing this weekend? I know, yeah. Good luck, everyone. You're going to kill it.
All right, and don't forget, tomorrow we have an 8 a.m. shakeout run that's heading out of here. Endorphins is going to be helping us with the course.
We got a 2.6-mile route.
Yeah, because I usually get lost in New York. Pretty much every shakeout we've done, I end up doing a 7-mile run instead of a 3-mile run. Central Park's a crazy place. Anyhow, we'd love to see you all out there for that. We're going to be having a party after this right here. So when you get up from your seats, if you could move to the back, because they're going to move all these chairs so that we can jog around in circles, or just stand there with a drink if you like. But Ted and I will be leading a group circle through the space here. I really want to thank Tyler, Dre, and Ted for being out here.